The blood on the road. If you think you know prisons, you don't know this one. Hit subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment before we go any deeper, because this story won't let you sleep tonight. The sirens were still echoing across the highway when deputies found the abandoned pickup truck. It sat crooked on the shoulder of a rural Louisiana road, driver's door wide open, engine still running. Inside, the radio hissed with static, and a single boot lay on the passenger seat, oddly placed, as if someone had taken it off in a hurry. But it was the trail leading into the trees, deep footprints, staggered, as though someone had been dragging an injured leg, that made the sheriff mutter, "This isn't a carjacking. This is someone running for their life." By dawn, they found him, face down in the weeds, palms scraped, clothes torn, exhausted to the point of collapse. His name was Darius St. LeBlanc, a New Orleans hustler whose reputation traveled faster than his rap sheet. The newspapers knew him as a mid-level narcotics dealer with a gift for creating loyalty. Detectives knew him as someone too smart to be caught dirty, too calm to be intimidated, and too charismatic to ever be forgotten. But that morning, he wasn't any of those things. He was silent, dehydrated, and barely conscious, mumbling the same sentence as they loaded him into the ambulance. "They're coming, they're still coming." Nobody believed him. Not then. The investigation into the abandoned truck linked Darius to a warehouse in Jefferson Parish, where deputies discovered a stash operation that someone had cleaned out in a hurry. No bodies, no weapons, no fingerprints, just empty crates, ripped packaging, and a strong chemical smell. The only thing left behind was a single burner phone that wouldn't stop vibrating, message after message from numbers not saved. "You owe us. We're not done. You talk, you disappear." Detectives suspected gang retaliation. Prosecutors suspected organized trafficking. But the people who knew Darius, really knew him, said it didn't make sense. "Saint doesn't run," one friend insisted. Yet he had run so far he collapsed. At the hospital, Darius refused to cooperate. He claimed he didn't know who was after him. He said the warehouse wasn't his. He insisted the messages weren't threats. But every detective in the room could see it. His hands shook when they questioned him. His voice cracked when they pressed him. His eyes kept darting toward the door. Fear. Real fear. The kind only a man who's seen too much can recognize in another. Within days, the state decided he was safer in custody than on the streets. Prosecutors indicted him on trafficking, conspiracy, and multiple financial crimes tied to the warehouse. The judge denied bail immediately. And just like that, Darius St. LeBlanc, who had avoided prison his entire adult life, was sentenced to 30 years at one of the most infamous prisons in America, the Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola, a former plantation turned maximum security penitentiary. 18,000 acres of farmland, razor wire, and reputation. A place where time didn't just move slowly. It ground men down until they became something else entirely. When the bus carrying new inmates pulled through the gates, Darius stared out the window, understanding immediately that Angola wasn't a punishment. It was a sentence inside a sentence. Guards with stone faces. Tower officers with rifles. Rows of fields dotted with men in denim harvesting crops under the hot sun. He'd heard stories. Everyone had. But seeing it was different. Seeing it meant understanding why some inmates whispered Angolas, named the way others whispered the names of old ghosts. Inside, the noise swallowed him, shouting, steel doors, boots scraping cement. But beneath the chaos lurked something else, something darker. An order, a hierarchy, an invisible structure built over decades. A system run by inmates who had turned survival into strategy and strategy into power. Darius entered his tier without a word. Men stared as he passed, some curious, some calculating, some remembering the rumors of what Darius had been outside. But rumors didn't matter here. Angola didn't care who you were in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or anywhere else. Angola rewrote every man's story. It tore away ego, pride, even name, until there was only the number stitched into your uniform. Yet even on that first day, as Darius sat on his bunk in silence, he felt something he couldn't explain. A gaze, a presence, Someone watching him. Someone who already knew his past and maybe his future. That night, an envelope slid under his cell door. No words. No threats. Just a small piece of worn paper. A photograph. 3 men standing in front of the warehouse he swore wasn't his. One of them, circled in red ink, was Darius. And behind him, half hidden in the shadow of a steel column, was a 4th figure. Blurred. Unidentifiable. Except Darius recognized the posture instantly. Because it was the same posture he'd seen in the woods the night he ran. The same posture that still haunted his sleep. And on the back of the photo, a single sentence written in shaky handwriting. You thought Angola would save you. It won't. The man in the fields. Night covered Angola like a heavy blanket, thick, humid, and full of secrets. After the photo appeared under his cell door, Darius barely slept. When he did drift off, he jolted awake at every clatter of keys, every echoing shout, every footstep in the hallway. By morning chow, he felt like a man balancing on the edge of a knife. But Angola did not care about sleepless nights. At sunrise, the guards marched hundreds of inmates toward the fields, 17 square miles of farmland that the prison had operated for generations. Men called to the farm, but everyone knew the truth. It was labor under the burning Louisiana sun, supervised by mounted officers with rifles. Darius took his position among the line crews, gripping a hoe with blistered hands. The soil was damp. The air smelled of sweat and dust. And as he worked, he noticed the stares from other inmates, longer than before, heavier, almost expectant. It wasn't curiosity anymore. It was recognition. Someone had shared the photo. Someone wanted him to know he wasn't invisible here. The inmate next to him finally spoke. He was older, with gray around his beard and eyes that had seen too many seasons. You got enemies out there, he muttered without looking up. Darius remained silent. The man continued, his voice low. Angola got a rumor mill faster than the news. People talk. They say you ran from something on the outside. Something that didn't stay outside. Darius clenched his jaw. I don't know what they're talking about. The man gave a bitter laugh. Everyone who ends up here got a story like that. But yours? Yours got people nervous. He paused, then added, someone dropped that picture on your tier last night. Someone who knows the ghost you're afraid of. Darius stopped working. His breathing tightened. Ghost, he repeated. The man finally looked at him. Yeah, the one in your photo. The one behind you. The shadow everybody pretending not to see. Before Darius could ask more, a guard shouted, move. Back to work, and the conversation died. But the older inmate's final warning lingered like smoke. Ghosts don't follow men into Angola, unless they're not ghosts. By afternoon, Darius was summoned unexpectedly to the warden's office. The hallway leading there was quiet, too quiet. Guards kept their eyes forward, unreadable. Something was off. Warden Stokes sat behind a thick wooden desk. A strict man, known for routine and predictability. But today, his fingers tapped nervously against a stack of folders. You've been here less than 2 weeks, Stokes began, and I already have reports of intimidation, contraband, and messages being passed to your cell. I haven't done anything, Darius said. That's the problem. The warden leaned forward. Things are happening around you. And things don't happen at Angola without a reason. He opened a folder and slid a printed copy of the photo across the desk. Who wants you scared, LeBlanc? I don't know, Darius whispered. The warden's jaw tightened. Someone sent this anonymously through our internal system. That concerns me. Darius's throat dried. Why would someone on the inside have that picture? Stokes didn't blink. Unless the threat you're running from is bigger than you're admitting. For a moment, both men sat in silence. Then the warden lowered his voice. You listen to me carefully. Angola isn't like other prisons. If someone wants to get to you here, they don't need to break in. They're already in. He stood, signaling the meeting was over. Until you talk, I can't protect you. You go back to your tier and keep your head down. That's all I can offer. As he was escorted out, Darius felt a chill he couldn't shake. The warden wasn't lying. Angola had swallowed stronger men whole. That evening, As the sun dipped behind the guard towers and the hallways turned cold and echoing, Darius returned to his tier. But this time, something was different. Every conversation stopped when he walked in. Some men nodded with respect. Others avoided his eyes altogether. A few whispered to each other with subtle gestures toward him. Darius had become a symbol, not of strength, but of something worse, trouble. He climbed into his cell, but before he could shut the door, a folded note fluttered from the upper bunk. Not placed there. Thrown. Delivered. He opened it slowly. We know who he is. You're not safe in the field tomorrow. No signature. No explanation. Just a crude drawing beneath the warning. Someone standing in the field rows, and behind him, a second figure holding something sharp. Darius stared at the drawing until his heartbeat steadied. Until the shock wore off. Until he understood exactly what it meant. This wasn't fear. This wasn't paranoia. This was coordination. Someone was planning something. And tomorrow, in the open fields, surrounded by hundreds of inmates and only a few guards, he would be exposed. He paced the cell for hours, thinking of anyone from the outside who could reach him here. But the more he tried to make sense of it, the more the mystery deepened. Just before lights out, the older inmate from the fields passed his door. He slowed, met Darius's eyes, and whispered, "Don't go to work tomorrow. If you do, you won't make it back." Then he kept walking. Darius sat on the edge of his bunk, fists clenched, pulse hammering. Whoever wanted him gone didn't just follow him into Angola. They were already waiting. And tomorrow, the trap would spring. Dawn broke over Angola Prison like a warning. A thin orange line pressed against the horizon, but the yard was still swallowed in that heavy metallic quiet that always came before something went wrong. Inside the cell blocks, guards moved faster than usual, radios buzzing with scrambled chatter. Something big was coming. Every man inside Angola felt it, and so did Marcus Kane. For nearly 2 decades, Marcus had survived the penitentiary the same way a man survives a hurricane. You don't outfight it, you outlast it. But survival wasn't enough anymore. His name, whispered through the tears, had transformed from inmate to symbol. He wanted something larger, something final, something that could reclaim the humanity this place tried to grind out of him. Around 6:15 a.m., Sergeant Holloway approached his cell. Holloway's face was different today, harder, colder. Marcus had seen that look too many times in Angola. It meant someone had made a decision behind closed doors, and the consequences were already rolling downhill. "Pack up," Holloway said, voice tight. "You're being moved to restrictive housing." Immediately, Marcus didn't react. Not outwardly, but inside everything dropped. Restrictive housing wasn't just solitary. It was where influence went to die. If Marcus disappeared into those concrete walls, his work in Angola ended. His program for young inmates, his mediation role that had prevented more violence than the administration ever admitted, his entire transformation story stalled. And deep down, Marcus knew this wasn't random. Someone wanted him silenced. As he stepped into the hallway, 2 more guards flanked him. Their formation was tight, rehearsed. 2, rehearsed. They walked him past the tiers where inmates pressed against their cell doors, eyes following him with a mixture of respect and fear. Marcus didn't look away. They were the reason he kept going, the reason he had survived the darkest days. But as he reached the lower yard corridor, something unexpected happened. A guard ran in from the opposite hall, breathless. "Stop. Warden wants him in admin, now." Change of orders. Holloway froze. His jaw tightened. Marcus caught the flicker, not confusion, but irritation. Someone's plan had just been interrupted. They turned Marcus around and led him toward the admin building. With every step, the air felt heavier. Angola had many rooms where decisions were made, but the administrative wing was where futures were decided. Sometimes saved, sometimes erased. Inside the conference room, the warden sat stiffly at the head of a long wooden table. 2 investigators from the Louisiana Department of Corrections were beside him. A file folder sat in front of them, thick and overstuffed. "Sit down, Marcus," the warden said. Marcus remained standing. "Tell me what this is about." The warden exhaled. We received new information about the case that brought you here. Marcus didn't breathe. For 20 years, his sentence had been anchored to a single devastating moment. A robbery gone wrong, a man dead, and Marcus pinned as the mastermind. He had always admitted to the crime, but not the murder. He insisted he didn't pull the trigger. He insisted someone else was there. Someone the system never bothered to look for. An investigator slid the folder toward the warden. We received a confession from a man who claims he was part of your crew that night. Marcus blinked hard. Part of his crew? There was no crew. He had done the robbery alone. The investigator continued. He said he killed the victim. And he named you because he knew the police were desperate for a quick resolution. Marcus felt his legs weaken. For years, he had tried to bury the anger, the guilt, the shame of a crime he didn't fully commit. Now suddenly, the truth was clawing its way to the surface. Where is he? Marcus asked. Dead, the investigator replied. Overdose. But he recorded a statement 2 weeks before he died. It lines up with forensic inconsistencies the original investigators ignored. The warden leaned forward, hands clasped. Marcus, this could lead to a full review of your case. Potentially even a reduced sentence. Maybe more. The room spun. Angola had a way of suffocating hope. Marcus had learned not to trust it. Not after 14 winters. Not after countless nights where the prison swallowed a man whole. But then the warden said something Marcus never expected to hear. And there's more. Your work inside this prison, the violence prevention program, the education mentorship, the mediation during the 2019 yard conflict. It's part of the file now. The department thinks you're a candidate for sentence reconsideration. In the hallway, Holloway's radio crackled. Voices murmured. The guards waiting outside shifted nervously. Something was unfolding larger than any of them could control. Marcus sat down slowly. His hands trembled. So what happens now, he asked. The investigator closed the folder. We push this through the courts. It won't be fast. But Marcus, you might walk out of here. The words felt unreal, like hearing someone else's future. But Angola doesn't let a man go without one final test. That night, as Marcus returned to his tier, an inmate slipped a folded note through the bars. Marcus opened it. They know your case is being reopened. Someone inside doesn't want you going home. Watch your back. Marcus looked toward the darkened walkway. Shadows moved. Eyes watched. Angola had built him, broken him, and rebuilt him again. But now it was turning against him. And freedom, the one thing he never allowed himself to dream about, was suddenly the most dangerous thing he'd ever chased. He lay awake long after lights out, staring at the ceiling. Because if the note was true, then surviving Angola just became a race against time. A race he could not afford to lose. If you thought this story was intense, the next one goes even deeper into the darkest corners of the criminal justice system. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.